Some things just never change, like me making yet another Sifu video. I know, I may have other games to play, but this game just plays itself, and I know there's going to be new players looking for this video specifically, given the fact that Sifu is free if you have PSN Plus this month, so this is the perfect moment to play Sifu, and this is the perfect time for me to dump all my knowledge when it comes to the scoring system, which has been subject to change over the last 2 years, and now I feel confident telling you everything you need to know if you want to just maximize your efficiency when it comes to scoring points on every single level. I'm going to share with you my secrets, and believe me, trust me, if before you were scoring 20k, now you can go all the way to 40k with those secrets. Let's go. So, the very first thing I want you to always keep an eye on is your multiplier. It maximizes at 3, and you want to make sure that during fights it stays at 3 while that bar, which is going up and down, is glowing yellow. It's going to ensure that you score the maximum amount of points at that moment, So one rule, make sure your multiplier is always at 3, and make sure that when you're hitting people, the bar is glowing yellow. Sometimes you may end up getting hit, it's okay. Sometimes you may end up hitting, spamming the same move, and in case you missed it, the scoring system, as it is right now, is going to punish you if you repeat the same move maybe more than twice. It's very punishing, but at the same time, it's also very easy to capitalize on that if you're aware of it. So you want to make sure that you don't spam the same move, but because it can happen, you want to make sure that you have that move, that cowboy move, which is going to ensure that you go back. Usually it's going to give you it's going to fill the bar, that bar which is going up and down next to the number, your multiplier number. Using the cowboy move is not the only way you can replenish your multiplier, because, well, first of all, it requires focus, and you may need to hit people, dodge in order to have focus. You can also use the taunt. If you press right, I think, on your D-pad, you can taunt enemies, but this counts as a move, so you can't spam it. I think you can only use it once per enemy, or once, I don't think it's once per encounter, but because sometimes you can taunt the same enemy, you're going to start saying that the bar is going down, because the game assumed you are taunting the same enemy twice. It's going to assume you are using the same move twice, and then the bar is going to go down, which is unfortunate. So you don't want to spam taunting, but you only want to use it when you see that enemies are passive, they're not attacking you. You want to aggro them, that way you can keep fighting them, and you can keep increasing your multiplier, and you can keep capitalizing on scoring points. So we just established that we need to keep an eye on our multiplier if you want to increase our performance, but something else we could do, which is going to be very beneficial in the long run, is to start the level with the multiplier at 3. How do you do that? Well, you're going to notice that on every single level, most levels, you're going to have to face 1 or 2 enemies, and usually what we do is we just beat them and go on with our day. Now, you want to make sure that you capitalize on those 2 enemies, and make sure that you can, maybe block the attacks and increase that multiplier, because the multiplier increases easily when you're blocking or parrying or dodging. So you want to dodge the attacks, you want to push them back, you want to build that meter until it's around 2 or 3, and then you kill them. But with that said, I want to make sure that we understand each other. You don't have to do that. You don't have to make sure that your multiplier is at 3 before you even step into the club. But if you want to make sure that you have the highest possible score you could have on the club, maybe you are a completionist, maybe you just want to do it for the fun of it, just like I do, this is something you will have to do. You have to make sure that your multiplier is at 3 at every given moment. It really matters. So, next tip is to make sure that we play passively and aggressively. Let me explain. Like I mentioned before, the game is going to punish you if you spam the same moves. If you tend to rely on the same moves, the same skills over and over again, you're going to have diminishing returns, something we don't want, because it's going to lower the multiplier is going to lower the bar, and we want the bar to be always full. Something I noticed after 300 plus hours of playtime is you don't want to play too aggressively, you don't want to go in there and fight enemies efficiently. You're going to have less points as opposed to when you just sit down, relax and let them come to you. I understand that we've seen so many versions of the scoring system that it's very difficult to know what to do in the end. But trust me on this one, you don't want to be too aggressive. You want to work on the structure. You want to make sure that enemies come to you and you parry them. You want to parry their moves, you want to build up the structure until you can perform a takedown or you can throw them over. The game is going to reward you if you defeat enemies very fast, while at the same time giving you even more points if you defeat them with the health almost maxed out. You don't want to fight them too quickly. You want to. It's kind of weird because it's not a drag. Every single encounter is going to go by fast because you're not wasting time. You want to make sure that you aggro the enemies. They're going to come to you, but you don't want to fight them head on. You want to parry them if you can. Some enemies cannot just be parried because the playstyle doesn't allow it. The playstyle doesn't allow it, so you can't do that. But for most enemies, you want them to come to you. You parry 2-3 moves. You're going to build up the structure, especially if you have parry impact, something you really want to get early on. It's possible to get 3 stacks of parry impact in the study level, in the squats. It's possible to do that, and once you do, the club is going to be, every single level after the squats is going to be a breeze. It's going to fly by because you can parry and capitalize on those parries, increasing the structure and destroying them while the health is at the highest. So when facing enemies, you want to focus first on the structure and then perform a takedown. And most of the time, when you're lucky, enemies are going to turn into elites. They're going to transform into Super Saiyans, and that's a good thing for us because it allows us to score even more points. So don't be shy, don't be afraid to perform takedowns. You want them to turn, you want them to give you even more points. There is, however, another way to score points. It is by performing palm strike or a directional throw next to a ledge. By making sure enemies fall from high places, you're going to defeat them on paper while their health is maxed out, which is the purpose of it's what we're looking for. We want to defeat them while their health is maxed out. That way we can capitalize on the scoring system and we can get the maximum amount of points possible. So 2 things you can do, keep in mind. You can build up that structure and then perform a takedown, or you can throw enemies off a ledge and boom, so most of the time you're going to get more points depending on what you do. Sometimes performing a takedown will give you more points, and sometimes throwing enemies off a ledge will give you more points. It's up to you to decide what you want to do. At the end of the day, I am but a messenger, and I just presented to you your 2 options when it comes to defeating enemies. It's up to you to decide what you want to do with your options. Now, it's very important that you learn enemy patterns, because if you don't, you're going to get hit, especially when they turn Super Saiyan or when you become overwhelmed, because you will get overwhelmed, because as we established before, you can't actually play aggressively. So there's going to be scenarios where you find yourself surrounded by 8-10 enemies, and you want to make sure that you know who to hit and who to parry, and you can never ever perform a directional throw when you are surrounded by people, because it's one of those attacks you cannot cancel, and you're going to get hit, you're going to lose some meter, you're going to have to build up that meter again. It's very tedious. So pay attention to your surrounding and do not perform a throw if you are surrounded. It's also very important to know a level layout. That way you can make sure that you defeat every single enemy on that level, and you know how to maneuver your way through that level, because sometimes I won't pick up, I'll say I won't go to the shrine until I know I'm going upstairs in the club, and I know that, okay, I'm going to have to face those enemies here, so I can make sure that I throw those enemies over ledges, and in here I perform a takedown because I know for sure that someone's going to turn. It's very important to know those things because that's how you maximize, that's how you capitalize on defeating enemies. It's very important to you need to, your knowledge game when it comes to the game needs to be top tier when it comes to the enemy's patterns, when it comes to the location, when it comes to even the shrine location. Everything needs to be on point. Now, the most important advice, and this one is the most important one, and I'm sad that it took me this long to figure it out. It is so insane that even if you were to neglect everything I said so far, you will still be able to get so much points if you apply this one thing. For some very odd reason, I don't know why, but for some very odd reason, whenever you are using a weapon, specifically a bat, a pipe, or I'll say a stick, all those things which they have the same animation, pipes, bats and sticks, they have the same animation whenever you fight, but you don't want to fight with them, you want to parry. And post parry, whenever you perform a parry, especially a heavy parry, you want to perform a follow-up counter attack with triangle or square. Again, it's very important that you don't attack people because weapons, they deal a lot of damage. You're going to lower that health, the enemy's health, too fast. No, what you want to do is you want to build that structure using a weapon, just that. And for some very, I don't know why that's the case, but your points are going to increase so fast that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I was struggling to get to 30k at the club. Whenever I was on my top tier game, not getting hit a single time from beginning to end, and I was barely able to make it to 30k. And then I started using pipes, I started using bats here and there, and boom, I found myself to 39k, and all the way to, hear me out, all the way to 41k in the club by not even dragging out encounters, by fighting efficiently. And that was it. And okay, remember to you want to finish the boss of that level if you want the score to matter, to be taken into account. So don't forget to defeat the bosses when you are at the end of the run. And yeah, I was surprised by how easy it was to rack up some points by just using the counter attack with the bat. I don't know why that is, but knowing that, this is when I'll say level layout knowledge comes into place, because if you know where to find the bat, because eventually they break, something you can do is to increase the weapon durability, because after getting parry impact there's not much you can do to be more efficient, so maybe that's something you could do, a path you can follow, increase weapon durability. Because what I do usually is I know where to find bats on every encounter. Sometimes you will pick one bat and it's going to carry over for 2 encounters, because remember, you're not fighting with the bat, you're countering with the bat. If you fight with the bat, it's going to break easily. You don't want to do that, because if the bat breaks, then there are all those points you are going to leave on the table, which is not good. So keep in mind, again, for the last time, you want to make sure that your multiplier is at the highest at every single moment. And if you do get hit, something which may happen, especially because you get overwhelmed by this playstyle, playing passively and aggressively, you're going to get overwhelmed, you're going to get hit. This is when you use the carbot move to get the meter back up, or you use the taunt move to provoke enemies and to make them target you more often. Sometimes it's better to target the structure, and sometimes it's better to just throw enemies over ledges. And for the last time, the bat is your best friend. You want to make sure that you use it to counter post parry. Whenever you perform the hard parry and the enemies are knocked back, this is where you want to press square or triangle to rack up some points. Sometimes 200 apiece or 300 per parry. That's insane. That's actually insane. And trust me, I'm going to put my run, my 41k run, attached to this video. That way you can see by yourself how I performed, and you can use that on every single level. That's the craziest part. You can use it on every single level, and it's not a drag, because the previous method I used was to just, I'll say, every single encounter was a drag, you know, and this time it doesn't have to be. You know, you can spend 15 minutes in the club and get 41k points. That's insane. Anyway, this is the last video I make about the scoring system, and hopefully it's going to help you get more efficient at scoring points, and you will never ever be in a situation where you cannot unlock an outfit, or just, you know, just maybe for the fun of it. For the fun of it, you just want to have a run in the club or the museum or the tower, or you just want the maximum amount of points. Maybe you want to flex to your friends, or you want to flex to your cat. I don't know, whatever it is you do, you will never ever struggle ever again. And for me, that's an accomplishment. I'm Jiso. Drop a like because I made my research and I made sure that you will have an easier time. Subscribe to the channel and have fun. Peace.